Welcome to the CFB Dynasty Podcast with hosts Matt Knowles, Brian McElfresh, and Doug Gravely.
Hey everybody, how you doing out there? It is time for another CFB Dynasty Podcast. As always, my name is Matt Knowles. This other guy over here, I pointed right the first time, the founder and the creator of CFB Dynasty, Brian McElfresh. Brian, we have got a great show for you today, don't we? Tell everybody what is on tap for today's show.
Well, it's only natural after we get done with this big rankings update. We've got over 2,000 players ranked and live. The depth charts are complete. Now it's time to see where people are going to fall in the draft and do a mock draft. So it's exciting. It's good practice. You should definitely not go into draft season cold. Doing mocks this time of year is really great because you're getting like legit ADPs and kind of seeing where people fall and making those picks obviously count, getting the best value you can.
All right, so it's going to be fun. We're going to get to that draft here in just a little bit. But first, we always like to talk about some real world topics. There was some stuff that happened yesterday, and we sure as heck are not talking about any political debates. No, forget that. There was some other stuff that happened yesterday that could be pertinent to us as sports fans. So yesterday, the NBA draft concluded. The Los Angeles Lakers draft Bronny James, who is LeBron James' son. There's a lot of controversy around that. We're going to apply this to fantasy football and to your thinking as a fantasy football player and as a sports fan in general. So Bronny James, by all estimations, did not have a college career that should have got him drafted. If you look at the guys that were not drafted that signed free agent contracts and Bronny James did get drafted, it's laughable. His stats are ridiculous. There are guys in your local, gym rec league that put up better stats than Bronny James. The word basically is that Bronny James said, if you're not the Lakers, don't draft me. If you're anybody else, I'm going to go out of the country. And the Lakers basically drafted Bronny James to keep LeBron there, to find a way to have a good marketing father and son on the team together, which is not something that's really ever happened much in all of pro sports. So, BMAC, if this was your team of any sport, would you be okay with your team spending a draft pick on somebody just for the marketing perspective, just because it's a guy they wanted, regardless of their on-court performance or on-field performance? How would you think about that?
Well, based on our home league draft last year, I would overthink it. That's where I was. So going into the draft, like leading up to the draft, I was all about Eugene Wilson for Florida, 5-star receiver. Loved everything about him. And then, I think it was a week or so before our draft, he was his number was picked. So he's going to wear jersey number 3, which happens to be my favorite number. And if you're not watching to see my Gators hat, my favorite team. So driving to the draft, I decided that is such a dumb way to finalize the pick that you want to have. Right, this is my team, favorite jersey number. I'm going Eugene Wilson. So I decided that day, all right, I am not going to touch him for whatever reason. That was the one day of the whole summer leading up to the draft that I was like, all right, I can't make this call. I ended up taking an SMU receiver that bombed instead in the 3rd round. And then I think he was drafted right after that. So I had plenty of opportunities to take Eugene Wilson. I overthought it. And now he's a premium Devy target. He's going to get the ball so much this year in Gainesville. So that's what I would do. I'd overthink it. Normally, I would say, let's go for it. Let me take my favorite player on my favorite team. You get into that my guy conversation, right? You go into the draft and you have your board set up and all that stuff, but there's a couple of names typically that stand out that you have to have. He was that guy. I should have gone and got him, but now I get not only the rest of his college career as something where my buddy Mike Dillingham will have him, and it'll be just regrets forever. I get to face him in the NFL for probably 10, 12, 14 years as well.
And somebody like Mike Dillingham, who is also a Gators fan, there's no way he's trading you that guy, and he's gonna hang that over your head for a while, because that's also probably his guy as well.
Yeah,
so,
no doubt.
So basically the rub here is that when you're playing fantasy, try to really gauge if this guy is my guy, is he really going to be valuable to your team? But also, hey, we play this game for fun. Yeah, we're all competitive, and you want to have fun with it. So sometimes you might want to draft a guy just because he's your guy, because you want to see him on your team and you want to root for him. And obviously you don't want to go and be drafting a guy that's a 5th round talent in the 1st round, but maybe you draft him around early because you're like, you know what? I'd rather have him on my team than have to be playing against him, like you said, for the next 10 years. So,
yeah, during the season, at least I could say, or I said, at least I could have, I've got ETN at running back, and now he plays for Georgia. So,
all right. So, yeah, we want to know what your thoughts are on Discord in the comments. How much do you value the my guy aspect when you're drafting? Is it always drafting for numbers, or are there guys that you draft just because you want to enjoy having that guy on your team and you want to root for him and see him grow on your team? And even the Bronny James thing, is anybody out there, I can tell you as a Miami Heat fan, I think it's great that the Lakers drafted him, because I don't see the Lakers being any better by drafting Bronny James. Now, if Bronny James and LeBron went to a different team, maybe that team gets an infusion, but I don't see the Lakers being any better by doing that. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on Bronny James, that definitely was not a draftable player, getting drafted specifically for marketing purposes?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, BMAC, there's a topic that came up just yesterday that could spark some heated debate amongst commissioners, amongst people in leagues. I'm going to let you bring up the topic so that we can have a little debate. And I am sure that anybody out there listening is going to have some kind of opinion, and we can't wait for people to share their opinions. What am I talking about, BMAC?
Yeah, especially commissioners. So I think this has been on Sleeper for a while as an option when you're running your league. The overarching concept or conversation or debate is, how do you determine a champion in fantasy football, and specifically looking at the regular season? So CBS, which is where we host the pro side of our league, we haven't moved that to Fantrax or anything, just because we've been there forever, I guess. But CBS launched, as part of their update for the upcoming 2024 fantasy season, you can, in addition to, and I'm pretty sure this is how it works, I know this is how it's worked on Sleeper, but in addition to your head-to-head each week, you can also reward a win or a loss for the top half in points that week. And obviously the bottom half get a loss that week. So you're playing for 2 wins or 2 losses each week. You're playing against your opponent, and then you're playing against, top half, bottom half of the league. So I would say, well, forget that. What are your initial impressions, Matt, of that
So my initial impression is this.
Or feature.
If a league wants to consider that for their league as an additional, I think that that's something that could be cool, because that gives a little bit of credence to the fact that you've drafted well. I think if a league decides they want to switch their entire route of standings, their entire way to get standings, to the top 6 guys of the week get a win, the bottom 6 guys get a loss, I would personally hate that, because then it takes away the game aspect. I want to go into a game knowing, holy crap, I've got this huge matchup this week. I've got to go beat BMAC this week, like I always do every year in every single league. I've got to beat BMAC once again and keep that winning streak up. Fact checkers are out there going, that is false. But I want to know that I'm playing that guy and be able to focus on my matchup with that individual, just like our college teams or our pro teams do. I don't want to go into a week knowing my only thing is to look at what the other 11 teams in the league are doing, because then it doesn't become game based. It just becomes stats based only.
Yep.
So in my thought, as long as it was something that was done alongside of the stats. Now, do you get a full game for it? Maybe you get a full game. Maybe you get a half a game for the win and a half a game for a loss. That way the game is still more important. I don't know, but I think that there's a way that you could integrate it without taking away the game aspect, but I definitely wouldn't go that way only.
Well,
what about you, B-Mac?
We agree on that for sure. Like the head-to-head aspect is really important. I think we've all experienced that like fantasy playoff run where you have the team that's totally unworthy, I would say, based on their roster, where they sneak into the playoffs and their team just gets really hot and they win the championship. That's just going to happen. That's part of it. There are leagues that do home field advantage based on the number of wins in the playoffs. So you start with X number of points and that kind of stuff. And I think there's some validity to that discussion. But for this one, yes, I think the head-to-head aspect has to stick. And as we're talking about this, we're thinking about our home league too. And will we give this a go? Because, the season's short. You get 10 weeks essentially of the regular season in fantasy, give or take. But depending on if it's the college or the pro side. But so we do double headers and different stuff like that. We're split up into 3 divisions of 4 teams, and that's worked out. But I think this is better. And here's where I think it's better than having head-to-head matchups. It's currently, you can have a luck of the draw based on your schedule. Everybody, when you see it in the real world of college football, it's like, you can't complain about Alabama. They always schedule a tough team. But let's just say Alabama, and let's say they've got just the luck of the draw in terms of scheduling. They face LSU, and LSU's quarterback is out. They've got bye weeks in the right spots and all that stuff. So the schedule can give you a luck of the draw. Whereas in this case, you've got the schedule aspect, so that's there. I think mathematically it rewards the best owners because the best owners set their rosters the best and get the most points. And it's not just about points, 1 week they go for 330 points and they happen to have a doubleheader. No, it's like every week the points matter a ton. And of course, that'll factor into the playoffs a lot as well. Typically as tiebreakers, points would be the number one tiebreaker in most leagues that are set up by commissioners with a brain cell or two. So I do think that I think it's just better. I would vote for it immediately in our league to go with our normal schedule of 1 game per week and then having 1 win or loss, based on points for the top or bottom half of the league.
Well, and again, like BMAX said, in our league, we do some double headers. Only reason being so that way, with it being 3 divisions of 4 teams, that every team has got an equitable and even schedule where you play everybody in your division twice, everybody outside the division once. So that's where, if we would consider it for our league, that I would say I wouldn't want to change anything that's already there. I just want to add this on top because of that way. Otherwise, and there's no divisions. There's no reason to have divisions. I mean,
True.
I want to be able to know that.
Fun.
Yeah, I want to be able to know that I have a chance to play BMAC in the regular season. If we remove those double headers, there could be a season where I wouldn't even play them. There's a league that I play in the pro side, and there's no double headers, and you just play who you play. And there's one team that I didn't play in the regular season for literally like 4 or 5 years. And I'm like, why am I even in the league with this person? Because I literally never even saw them on a schedule in the regular season or the playoffs. So I think there's considerations that need to be made. So that way the fix doesn't break something else, that it could be something that's,
I like that. I would, I'd be good with that. I think that's great. I think that would work out where you keep the schedule as is. You play everybody in division twice. this is a year we draw for the divisions, right?
Yep.
So
Every
that'll be
3 years,
fun.
every 3 years, we repick the divisions. That way, you might have a group of death. You might have an easy division. It's randomized. BMAC has a little lottery spinner, and we go from there. The one
So
thing,
what was that game from? It's the actual wheel where the I guess a bingo type thing
let's
where
say
the
that
ball rolls
absolutely
out,
bingo, absolutely
but
bingo.
we
Yeah.
have the logos of each team kind of over the number, and so it's just a fun little addition to the draft day, and it's like it goes back to what we did, whatever, 17 years ago when we had that marathon draft day. We did our college draft and our pro draft, and we
Ah,
used that randomizer live to see what the pick order was. And so we've kind of kept that going for divisions every 3 years, and that's kind of fun.
Now, one thing real quick before we jump off of this, I do want to say
Yeah.
we did have one of our guys in our league, Josh Speedreed, say, okay, this is something that's there on CBS in the pros that could be used. It's not something that's on Fantrax right now in college. He was like, is this something that we could do manually? I can tell you, as someone who has commissioned a lot of leagues, as someone who people go to when it comes to rules, I would, especially in this day and age, if this was 10, 15, 20 years ago, I might say something different. But nowadays, I would absolutely caution against adding anything into your league that has to be manually calculated outside of the system itself. If it can be done in the system, then you want it to be done. You need to have ways for people, if something doesn't go right in the system, to be able to challenge that or to be able to make an addition need be. But I would say as a league, for it to run smooth, you want to be able to have the system be what calculates everything. I know a couple of years ago, we had a discussion about, can we add in something for a punter with a good average, or punter inside the 20, punter inside the 10, things like that, which is a good idea. That's actually kind of cool to be like, hey, I want to take a punter, and if a punter can land a ball inside the 5, then I get a point for that, or something like that. But there is no system out there that has any way to gauge that. And so that would be an unbelievable amount of calculations and checks and balances on players and commissions. So that's why anytime, if it's not in the system, I would advise against adding it in manually, just for that.
Yeah, we try and make no scoring adjustments, all that stuff manually. It just causes issues, because if one little thing is off in your scoring system and during the year you have to change it, that affects points, that affects wins and losses in a lot of scenarios. And then you have to go back and manually check every week. That would be a disaster.
And so real quick, we talked about last week, we gave Fantrax some shout outs, some props about having good customer service. Real world scenario, last week, we literally had the exact same thing right after the show got done. We just got done recording. BMAC and I were in there doing some configurations. Something didn't work. We sent a trouble ticket to Fantrax, and I think I got the response back in like 30 minutes. So I'm not saying they're always going to do that, but it was good to see a real world scenario where they resolved the problem as quickly as they could. We got it resolved. We were able to fix the thing that needed to get fixed. So shout out and props to Fantrax for proving what we said on the show last week in a real world scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. They are great to work with.
All right. So with that being said, the main topic of our show today is to do the first initial mock draft. So BMAC, why don't you tell everybody how we're going to handle this mock today, the initial mock, what it is, what the guidelines are for it, and what the purpose of it is.
Well, we've had a couple, but they were like in the spring early on. Now this is after all the spring games obviously ended. We've got all other rankings done. Depth charts are all updated. So with over 2,000 people ranked, like, we're ready for this now for another mock draft. It's time. So we're going to do 12 teams, 12 rounds. This is going to be a 2 quarterback starting league. So obviously quarterbacks will go, at least the second quarterbacks, and typically first quarterbacks as well, will go faster than normal. And then normally, so Doug couldn't make the show today, which stinks because I was going to run host, make the picks in between, and didn't really have time to set up a system that would automate this before the draft, before the mock draft. So Matt and I will be picking in between picks and talking about who we want to fall to us, that kind of stuff, and what goes into the thoughts on each pick. But yeah, quick 12-team mock draft. I'll put this up on the screen, and then we'll post it on the website as well. So Matt, you're sitting there in the team 5 spot, and Genty goes 1 as Ollie Gordon goes 2. No surprise. Tet McMillan, then Torrey Horton, goes to team 4. And there you are, Matt, in the 5th slot. What are you thinking here?
Well, if this was a 1 quarterback league, you'd have one kind of thought about it. If this is a 2 quarterback league, it's a little different because you're like, do I want to take a quarterback early? Because 2 quarterbacks is a big deal. That being said, I'm also not a dummy, and I'm going to have to go Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton, his with my boys Genty and Ollie Gordon not being there, Omarion Hampton got some incredible touches, incredible hands on the ball, incredible usage last year for North Carolina, and I think his ceiling is pretty freaking high. I don't think it's as high as Genty. I don't think it's as high as Gordon, but I think that it's kind of tough to let a guy like that go because, hey, I'm not going to be back around till 20 picks later, and you need to get yourself a bell cow running back that you know is going to get a ton of touches early.
Team 6 and 7 take 2 players that I was really hoping would drop to me. Ricky White goes to team 6. Jalen Royals goes to team 7. I really was thinking of taking a quarterback here. We've had no quarterbacks go yet, so I'm a little kind of not worried about those wide receiver and running back positions, but I don't want to get caught without a top player from those. So I'm going to go with Darius Taylor, running back from Minnesota. I love him in general. If you've listened to the show, you know I've tried to make deals for him all off season. Cautionary tale, though, his playoff schedule, he is unstartable.
All right, so we're back to BMAC on the way back down on the snake. So if you look at what the other teams out there, you've got Taj Brooks going to team 9, Bynum Brown, who we have ranked as the number 1 quarterback currently at 10, Caden Salter at 11, DJ Giddens and Cedric Baxter on the curve around there. So you have one team that went 2 running backs. You have team 11 that went 2 quarterbacks. So in most leagues, that's not going to be very smart. But you know what? They want to make sure they can corner the market because for the people at the other end of the list, now they're going to be way down the list as far as who their quarterback is going to be. BMAC, who do you want?
And it's 2 quarterbacks starting there, so that's pretty solid.
So BMAC, who do you want there at your second pick?
I was really hoping Evan Stewart would fall. He fell quite a bit. Goes to team 9 after Maffa there, goes to team 10. So I'm going to go with Luther Burden, who easily could have been a first-round pick, and he's got wide receiver 1 potential playing for Missouri. Still, like he can be up there and finish wide receiver 1. All right, so after Burden, team 7 goes with Pafele Ashlock. Team 6 goes Kyron Drones. So team 7's got a couple receivers. Team 6 has a receiver, quarterback. Matt, we're back to you. Who are you looking at here? What are you considering? All right, you've got Hampton. So you've got your running back 1 locked up there. What are you thinking here?
So with this being a draft that is a redraft league, this is not a keeper. This is not a dynasty. This is nothing like that. I'm still going to go with the same guy here that I would go with if this was a dynasty league, just because it's hard to not pick a guy that is going to be the number 1 receiver at Ohio State. And I don't want to say kind of like a my guy thing because he's not really my guy, but I want to be able to look at my roster when this is done and feel like I've got a strong top half of my team, not look back and go, man, there's other teams out there that are so much stronger than mine. I need to feel like after the draft is gone that I've got some guys that are going to be big time heavy hitters that are going to get a lot of touches on the ball. Omari and Hampton and Emeka Egbuka, you know, are going to get tons of looks every single game. So that's why I'm going there.
Now the AI behind Team 7 takes Bufele Ashlock, knowing your love for him and Hawaii and late night games and all this stuff. If Ashlock was there, you still going Egbuka?
Absolutely. In this situation, I am, specifically because I don't like the fact that Ashlock has got a game in Utah to start the college playoffs, and he's got a bye in the semis. So he's basically unstartable unless you get to the championship game. So in that respect, yes, I would. I do love Ashlock, but there's some games last year he totally disappeared. So I want a guy I know is going to get a lot of touches every single game. So I'm going to Egbuka there no matter what.
All right, then Team 4 goes Brennan Presley. Team 3 goes TJ Finley. Nico Iamaleava goes to Team 2. Jackson Dart ends round 2. And then Team 1 goes with the stack as it circles back around in round 3 with Trey Harris. Team 2 goes Colin Lacey, RJ Harvey, Team 3, and then Team 4, Jaden Ott finally off the board. Matt, with Egbuka and Hampton, who are you looking for here? Are you mad someone went there? What are you thinking?
Honestly, this is one of those spots in the draft where I feel like I might reach a little bit. But again, when you've got 14, 15 picks, whatever it is, before I get back, you kind of have to take the guy that you want here. So I'm going to go with one of those my guys, even though I don't really like where he went, Damian Martinez.
Oh, I see. I like where he went. I think that O-line at Miami is underrated. You know, I don't even know what they're rated, honestly, in like a Phil Steele magazine or whatnot. But in terms of like the country's understanding, because as I see in comments and stuff, everyone's dogging on Miami and how, and mostly the coaching staff and how they're going to underachieve again and all that stuff. But when you have a really good O-line, which they have a ton of talent, that started as freshmen last year, a couple of them, I think they can come together and be really freaking good. And Damian Martinez obviously is used to putting up big numbers. So I don't mind that pick whatsoever. Yeah, maybe ADP wise, it's a little bit of a reach, but I like Damian Martinez there. I think he's, you know, when it comes to our sleepers, and it's hard to think Damian Martinez could be a sleeper, but as someone who could absolutely, you can see the path where he can outperform his ADP. I like Damian Martinez there.
Well, the only reason why I say that is not because I think he's in a bad spot. I look at it like this is not a running back transferring from a group of 5 to Alabama or a school that you know is going to be putting up tons of touches. Damian Martinez was already getting a ton of touches at Oregon State. You know that he was going to be the guy that was going to touch the ball more than anybody else there. And I think going to Miami, he could still get tons of touches, but I feel like that is a slight downgrade there for him as far as his ability to get those kind of Oregon State kind of touches. That's the only reason it makes me have a little bit of pause there. But yeah, I definitely love Damian Martinez as a player. So that's why he goes in my 3rd round pick.
All right, we go Devin Neal to Team 6. So they've got Ricky White, Kyron Drones, Devin Neal. Then Jalen Royals on Team 7 with Bufele Ashlock. They go running back with Quentin Cooley. That brings it up to me. I've got Darius Taylor, Luther Burden. Man, it's one of those draft positions where I can kind of go any which way that I want. Like quarterback can make sense here. But I feel like there's a little bit of a leap here to, you know, a Milroe or a McLeod where I like them. Haynes King is up there. Hennigan, of course. So I think I'm going to wait on quarterback. At running back, I do feel like it's getting a little bit thin in terms of a tier. So I'm going to go with Mahdi here for my 3rd pick, or 3rd round pick there.
All right, so after BMAC picked Ishmael Mahdi in his 3rd round pick, you got Team 9 Preston Stone at quarterback, and you got wide receiver Sean Atkins at 10, Donovan Edwards running back on 11, Brock Taylor and Haynes King go on the spin there, offer Team 12, Tez Johnson back to Team 11, Jalen Milroe with 2 quarterbacks there on Team 10, and then Treyon Sibley, wide receiver, on Team 9. BMAC, with those 8 guys off the board, who are you going with next?
With 2 running backs and a receiver, still just not feeling the next quarterback. So I'm kind of trying to go with, feel like there's a tier coming at receiver, and that's really how one of the ways I like to, or one of the main strategies that I'll draft with, especially in a redraft league like this. So I wanted Sibley there, and I was sad to see him go there, but I'll go with, you know what? I don't like this either. I was going to go Joey Hobart here, but I don't like having Mahdi at running back and Hobart at receiver for the same team. Oh man, I really don't like that. So other guys in consideration here, Restrepo at Miami, Burgess at Georgia Southern, Eugene Wilson at Florida. I could go there. He was a regret for me. Let me go ahead and take Hobart though. I like the position in terms of where he is in the draft. I think it's a good value. I'm pretty confident he's going to get a good amount of touches, obviously, from his past. So we'll see, though, rapport with a new quarterback, how that works out. No, I'm changing my mind. I can do this right now. I had him in the queue, and then I'm just going Eugene Wilson there. All right. That's that.
I can tell you right now, if you didn't take Eugene Wilson there, I was just as a spite pick going to take him with my next pick just to mess with you, because that's kind of what you do sometimes in fantasy. Because you know what? If you're debating on that guy and it's very well known, and then you go pick him, that might be some trade bait. You might overpay in a trade just to get that guy with some buyer's remorse, and that might be something to help your team later on. So, sometimes you got to think it might not be your guy, but you might know it's somebody else's guy that they might overpay to get from you.
Team 7 goes Jordan James. They're 2 receivers, 2 running backs so far. Team 6 goes with the second running back. They also have a quarterback and a receiver. That brings us back to you, Matt, with Hampton and Damian Martinez at running back, Egbuka at receiver. Who are you going with here in the 4th round?
So I'm going to go with Jordan McLeod. I feel like after the Kent States and the and the schools like that every year there's one team that there's just tons of guys, a group of 5 school, there's tons of guys that always are up at the top of the list. And out of the group of 5, Texas State is the team that we've talked about more than any other team, because we've already had a running back, a wide receiver, and a quarterback that's been in discussions, and we're only in the 4th round. I think Texas State has the possibility, with Jordan McLeod coming over this year, to be that team in the group of 5 that you want to keep your eye on for a ton of guys getting a lot of stats. So I'm going to go with Jordan McLeod there for my first quarterback.
I love that pick. I like McLeod there a ton. He's someone who, had he come around again, since I couldn't really go all in on Texas State, obviously. He would have definitely been hard to pass again. But yeah, great pick. He's someone that I was considering as well. So Team 4 goes Garrett Green at quarterback, and then LeQuint Allen, Abu Sama, Fegan goes to Team 1, and then they also take Xavier Restrepo, the receiver out of Miami. So Team 1 with 5 players is balanced: 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 quarterback. Team 2 goes Joey Hobart. Isaiah Bond goes to Team 3, and then Shedeur Sanders goes to Team 4. Matt, you are with a quarterback, 2 running backs, a receiver. What are you thinking?
So, not that I would have drafted Shedeur at this spot, but I definitely see the Team 4 definitely has heard of has heard one of our podcasts in the past, and knows what I feel about Shedeur and his college potential. But so they wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be able to go and snag him again, go quarterback. That being said, I'm at an interesting spot right now because I'm looking at the list and there's probably 4 or 5 guys that I really want with this pick. And I have to say, which guy has the potential to actually come back around and be there 14 picks later? Because there's no way I'm going to get all 4 of those guys, 5 of those guys. But can I get 2 of them? So this makes it really interesting for me. I want to take guys that are going to get a lot of touches. That's my big thing. So I think I'm going to be the first team on the list to take a third running back already.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say tight end.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the third running back. I'm going to go Malik Sherrod at Fresno State.
Great pick.
I'm well known. We joked about it earlier. I've always got a lot of West Coast guys on my squad. The RB1 at Fresno State historically gets an incredible amount of touches. He is the bell cow. He is always getting touches. He's always big in the fantasy world. And if you look at the guys I've got on my team right now, Omarion Hampton, Egbuka, Martinez, Sherrod, those are all guys that are going to be involved in the game plan every single week. You're not going to have to worry about, is he going to be a guy that might get 2 targets one week and 15 targets the next week? You know, those guys are all going to be huge touch guys. So that's why I went with Malik Sherrod from Fresno State there.
Yeah, I dig that. So team 6 goes Jalen Raynor. That's their second quarterback. Team 7 takes their first quarterback, Will Howard, Ohio State. So right now, I think I might be the last one that doesn't have a quarterback, but that doesn't mean more are going to come off the board, because remember, this is a 2 quarterback starting draft here, mock draft. So I'm still gonna wait. I think I say that quite sheepishly. I'm thinking Marquez Cooper here at San Diego State. You can look at a Mario Anderson, a Derwin Burgess at receiver. I'm going to hope one of those or a Dalvin Smith come back to me. I'm going to go ahead and take Thomas Castellanos, Boston College quarterback there, so that I make sure I at least have one solid, he's a dual threat type of quarterback where, he can blow up in a game or two, of course, and isn't playing in the toughest conference. So certainly him playing in the ACC helps me out a little bit, or helps influence that pick.
All right. So after Brian's pick of Castellanos, you got running back Rashul Tutin at team 9. You got wide receiver Dalvin Smith off the board at 10. That's somebody BMAC was looking at. Definitely one of those players you want to make sure in your league configuration that they have him set up correctly. Last year, they had him set up as a dual player wide receiver / tight end. There were people that were trying to play him at tight end, even though he was a wide receiver, and that could throw off your standings, because when you have a wide receiver, being able to get wide receiver numbers in a tight end position, that could throw off your standings. You never want to have that. Then we have the first real tight end coming off the board, Rondé Gadsden. Hopefully he's going to be ready for this season. Tight end Harold Fannin to team 12, quarterback Miller Moss to team 12 as well. Wide receiver Noah Smith, the first person coming off the board from Sam Houston State ever in the history of college fantasy football. Tight end Luke Lachey at Iowa, a position is always going to be getting tons of looks. And then quarterback Cam Ward to team 9. BMAC, with all those guys coming off the board with those different runs right there, who are you going to take now after those crazy runs?
Great value there for Cam Ward, and if Miller Moss is able to keep that job at USC, that's going to be great value as well. So those are 2 guys that I was considering, knowing that I have one quarterback and I need another one to start here soon. But again, because I'm planning on you play to win, right? So I'm looking at my fantasy playoffs, knowing Taylor is not startable. I can just feel that weakness. So I'm looking at running back here. And one of the guys that I really wanted to fall, actually both of them fell. I'm going to go Marquez Cooper here, as I'm glad you did not select him from teams 9 through 12, picking twice. But Cooper goes there. Okay, and then Team 7 goes Mario Anderson, running back from Memphis. Derwin Burgess finally goes. So what a steal there for Team 6. And that brings us back to you, Matt, here drafting in the Team 5 slot with Hampton, Sherrod, and Martinez at running back, Egbuka at receiver, Jordan McLeod at quarterback. Who are you looking at here?
All right, so if you remember all the way back to when I drafted Malik Sherrod, I was talking about how there was like 4 or 5 guys there that I was looking for. Maybe I might be able to get 2 if I play my cards right. Shockingly, outside of Sherrod, the guys I had on my short list, none of them got drafted other than Dalvin Smith for the last 14 picks. So I still might be able to get maybe even 3 of these guys. So I have to go with who I think is the guy that's going to be gone the quickest. And I'll definitely take one of my guys that I didn't get in any league that I was in last year, just because it's very difficult to feel good about drafting an NC State wide receiver until you get to Casey Concepcion, which now NC State is going to be able to run the double Concepcion. His little brother just committed as well to the pack, so that's going to be super cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's going to be excellent there. But Concepcion, again, he's going to get tons of touches. NC State has dramatically increased the offensive talent around him, which could be good or bad for him. But having Concepcion there is massive.
With Mr. Likely 300 plus touches, a volume pig, if you will. You can read about him on his blog, Volume Pigs. LJ Martin, running back BYU. He's got a full article on him from a month and a half ago or so. It's really good. And then a quarterback run, which really kind of kills me a bit. But Fafita goes, then Joey Aguilar from App State, Jalen Daniels from Kansas. And then coming around in round 7, Squirrel White goes, Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver from Alabama. And then Zachariah Branch goes to Team 3. And then Ao Manor goes to Team 4 right before your pick. Matt, how are you feeling? Yep. What do you think?
I'm feeling a little bit rough right now because Squirrel White and Ao Manor were the 2 guys that were in my little group of 5 right there. Squirrel definitely disappointed last year, but definitely has a chance to be a bounce back guy this year.
Absolutely.
Ao Manor, I'm honestly probably glad that he came off the board because as much as I like him, he is a receiver for Stanford. And especially with Stanford moving into the ACC, who the heck knows how his performance is going to be affected by all those cross-country trips. He's a guy that when he's hot, gets a literal stupid amount of targets and touches, double digits on both. When Stanford's offense is Stanford, then he completely disappears. But he's a guy that is probably, I would say, probably the number 1 feast or famine guy in all of fantasy football. If he's off, he's off. If he's on, you're going to get insane PPR points out of that guy. So yeah, now that that's happened, I've got to see where I want to go. Man, I don't want to be reaching. I think I'm going to go, as much as I hate drafting a tight end early.
Oh.
I think I got to go with Kuithe from Utah. Dude has put up consistent targets and points when he's played. And that's just the offense that's built around him getting a lot of action. And if you look at the team I put together, it's all about targets and touches. So that's why I'm going to go with him right there.
So I like the pick, Matt. Kuithe, obviously coming back from an injury, but he's back into his tight end 1 spot with his, I think, 7th year guy, Cam Rising at quarterback. Wish that was a joke, but 7 years I think is legit. Team 6 goes Tajee Hudson, wide receiver from James Madison. Then Cincinnati wide receiver Tyron Smith comes off the board next. And so here it comes up to me. I've got 1 quarterback in a 2 quarterback starting league. So I'm definitely feeling the need at some point to get my 2nd and 3rd to give me some options here. But this being a 12-team league, I like what's out there at quarterback in terms of tiers. I feel good backing up Darius Taylor with Mahdi and Marquez Cooper. And now I really I am feeling the need to go wide receiver here, and that's going to be my focus. I've got Luther Burden, which I'll start every week. Eugene Wilson, which I'll start a ton, but the fantasy playoffs is really difficult. Florida, well known, has the toughest schedule in college football, potentially history. So I'm going to go with App State. Stable, looking for stability here. Probably not going to have a ton of boomer bust games, which is what I'll be going for later in the draft. I'm looking for not necessarily boomer bust. That's the wrong way to put it, but basically looking for guys that can blow up in a game and get 12 targets and a couple touchdowns. But I'm going to go, Caden Robinson, wide receiver, App State next.
You got Damon Ward to Team 9, wide receiver. Malachi Fields, wide receiver, Team 10. Team 11 says WWGD. They look at their pick and they say, what would Gordy do? Now, this is a guy that I probably would have picked back at 5, but I already had 3 running backs. Cameron Scatabo from Arizona State, guy that Gordy would absolutely love. And looking at Gordy's college to pro team, Gordy has a knack for picking guys that are going to be good pros. That's a guy that I really like. I think he's going to have a lot of potential there. Then you got Team 12, LaShawnte Wester going to Colorado. Jamison Tucker on the wraparound at Coastal Carolina. Will Pauling to Team 11. Then you got a couple more tight ends coming off the board. Jackson Warren. Why the heck Team 10 is going to go with 2 tight ends? There's some guy in your league that's going to do nonsense like that. They're going to pick 2 tight ends. Maybe they want to start them at flex, but you know what? It is what it is. You have to prepare for the unexpected. Then you got RJ Maryland going to Team 9. BMAC, after all that insanity at those picks, who are you going to take now in round 8 of 300?
Yeah, still feeling the need to go receiver here. So looking for, or really just looking at, there's some wide receiver 2s coming up here in the rankings. Looking at Will Shepherd, looking at Hutchinson at Western Kentucky. So I'm really going wide receiver 1 still there, like just bare, like fractions of points below those 2 guys in the rankings, in the projections. We've got Kyron Lacy, Kobe Hudson. Lacy has a big breakout potential this year, looking like he'll be wide receiver 1 at LSU. Hudson can be that and has been that, like for UCF. I'm going Lacy, LSU. So after I go Lacy, we go Team 7 takes Jackson Arnold to be for their second quarterback at Oklahoma. So he pairs up Will Howard with Jackson Arnold. And then Trevor Etienne off the board, running back for Georgia. Definitely running back 1. Could absolutely have a big year behind that offensive line, depending on how many touches he gets. Also good catching out of the backfield. So like that spot for Etienne for sure. Matt, this brings us back around to you. Where you at?
All right, there's a couple of guys I could take here. I definitely want to be going with wide receiver 1s, like you said, but I think that it's going to be difficult for me to not take a guy that I really liked him at his old location, but he was just on a terrible team, and that's Will Shepherd going to Colorado. I just think Colorado's, even we saw glimpses of that last year with Colorado's offense, being able to put up tons and tons of points and tons of stats as long as the offensive line actually decided to come out and play a game. I think Will Shepherd could be a huge breakout candidate this year at Colorado.
All right, so Team 4 goes Kobe Hudson, Jamal Pritchett off the board, wide receiver, Roman Hemby at running back, and then around to Team 1, UAB running back Isaiah Jacobs. And then they, on the turnaround there, take a tight end, Mason Taylor, which will fill a lot of their starters there, and they'll have 3 bench players left for Team 1. Going around to Team 2, they go Gavin Sawchuk, just great value there with that pick. Josh Hoover, quarterback TCU, Jaquavius Marks there at Team 4. Back to you, Matt. So just as a quick recap, you've got 3 receivers. You're good there on your starters. You got 3 running backs. So you've got 2 starters and a flex. You got your starting tight end, 1 quarterback. What are you looking at here?
So you know what? I'm going to take who we have as the next best running back on the board because you can never have too many good running backs at this point. I'm going to go with the guy that actually replaced Damian Martinez and go to Anthony Hankerson at Oregon State. So that'll be a good case study. Was it the position of running back that produced incredible results at Oregon State, or was it the player themselves and Damian Martinez that was producing those stats? We'll get to find out because with him not there anymore and Anthony Hankerson being the guy who's going to be running back one, we'll get to see really quick if it's the position and the coach and the game plan that's going to be producing a ton there at Oregon State. So I'll take a reach on him. Even though he's the next guy on our list, it's a little bit of a reach because he's an unknown commodity at this point.
Yeah, Jameis Griffin, like, could he win that job? That one I think is going to go through fall. That's going to be a tough one to be able to make that selection with confidence.
All right, so Team 6 goes with Floyd Chalk at running back. Team 7 goes Corey Dyches from now California, highly productive tight end previously. BMAC, with all these guys off the board, who are you going to go with? You've got a team that is stacking up. You've got 4 wide receivers, 3 running backs, and a single quarterback right now. Do you continue to stack up running backs and wide receivers? Do you say, forget the tight end, I don't want any tight ends on my team, or do you take your second quarterback?
I'm going to go second quarterback and take KJ Jefferson here. I think it's great value. He's a pretty volatile pick in terms of his ADP and where he's going. He can go really high or he can fall around this area. You're getting just great value for ADP. So I like Jefferson there as my second quarterback. Got a couple dual threat guys and good offenses that can go off any week.
All right, so after BMAX picking KJ Jefferson, you got Ulysses Bentley, the 4th, going to Team 9. Jalen Buckley, running back, going to Team 10. Chip Trainum, running back, going to Team 11. Jadarian Price to Team 12. North Carolina wide receiver J.J. Jones on that flip around to Team 12. Katie Hutchinson, who could be a huge get for Western Kentucky, depending on who takes over the spots for all those guys that have left that had tons and tons of touches. Justice Haynes, running back from Alabama, to Team 10. Late for that guy to go, so it's going to be interesting to see if that Alabama RB1 is going to be able to produce good for Team 10. And then Akron's wide receiver Alex Adams to Team 9. All right, BMAC, where are you going here in the 157th round?
It feels that way. I don't know who set this up with all these rounds.
I'm telling you, I feel like there might have been some pushback, and somebody might have been like, "Are we sure we want to do 12 rounds?" And somebody might have said, "Yeah, we got to do it. Let's go." I don't know who that. I don't know if that actually took place, but I feel like it might have.
I'll go with another LSU player on my roster. I'll take running back Caleb Jackson. Love his running style for that offense. And LSU has a top 10 rated O-line this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shifts because obviously the quarterback position at LSU isn't going to get as many touchdowns or yards on the ground as they did last year with Jaden Daniels. So Caleb Jackson or RB1 for LSU should get a ton more touches in the red zone, but certainly just touches overall. So I like and have liked historically LSU running backs, obviously as much as they used to run the ball. But I think it's going to make a comeback this year. I like the value there, Caleb Jackson, LSU. And Team 7 goes TJ Harden. Curtis Rourke, quarterback, goes to Team 6. That'll be their third quarterback. That brings us back to you, Matt. How are you feeling here?
I'd actually considered Curtis Rourke with my pick there, but since Team 6 decided to go in and jump my junk like that, nope. So I'm going to have to go back and take a quick look and see where I want to go. It's tough because college football has got so many good quarterbacks that can put up so many stats. It's not, can you find a 400, 500-yard guy? Maybe that week you're going to have a lot of guys that are going to put up tons of points. So, maybe I'm letting quarterbacks slide too far here because I think I might be the only team that's only got one quarterback right now.
Yep, I think so.
So let's see here. I'm going to go Quinn Ewers at quarterback. You got a guy that's just got so much upside there. I know there's a few other guys I could have taken ahead of him, but you're at this point in the draft, you just got to go with who you think is going to be the best guy on the board, on your board. All right, so BMAC, what do you think about Quinn Ewers at that spot?
He's a safe play. He'll be your quarterback 2 theoretically here. I think he's definitely one of those like low ceiling, high floor kind of guys where he's going to be in a great offense, great talent around him, but not going to get those, rushing touchdowns like your first quarterback, Jordan McLeod, will. So definitely around where you would expect Quinn Ewers to go. He can be one of the top, passing yardage and passing touchdown quarterbacks if he kind of realizes his potential this year. But yeah, I like that pick there. Safe play for sure. And then team 4 goes Eli Wilson. Amari Niblack goes to team 3. Justin Jolly kind of ends a little tight end run there. Justin Jolly, who should have an amazing year at NC State. Then Avery Johnson, quarterback for Kansas State, goes to team 1. And they also take Jaheim White there. Jordan Moore goes, the senior wide receiver from Duke, goes to team 2. Jarquez Hunter, team 3. Harrison Whaley at team 4. What are you thinking, Matt?
All right, so there's a couple different guys that I've had my eye on right here. One of the guys I'm looking at is Devin McCune from UTSA. UTSA normally is putting up they're putting some good stats out there for their wide receiver ones. The big thing for UTSA is our guy that was out there for what felt like a couple decades, Frank Harris, literally went from being a college quarterback straight into the coaching ranks. That's how long Frank Harris played college football. He is immediately into coaching because he basically has been there for a couple decades. So that's going to be the one thing you're not sure about there. So I'm going to skip over him and go to a guy that, again, me and my West Coast bent, Jalen Moss from Fresno State. Even though I've already got Malik Sherrod up there, Jalen Moss, the wide receiver 1 for Fresno State normally puts up a lot of points.
Love the pick. So then tight end Terrence Ferguson comes off the board, and then team 7 goes Chandler Morris, quarterback there. And right here is a tough spot for me. I have to take a tight end, but a lot of the top ones are gone. There's still another team has to at least take a tight end. So I'm going to go ahead and take what might end up being an often targeted tight end at Clemson. I'll take Jake Briningstool, which kind of forces me in to taking a quarterback here. If this was an extended draft, which would be awesome, a few more rounds, I'd be able to have.
No, it would not be a fun. No, it would not. Do not say things like that. What are you talking about? This thing does not need to be any more rounds.
Either way, I would need to be taking a quarterback very soon. So that's going to be my next pick. So, which would be my last. So,
McReynolds. Okay. Then Brady Cook for team 11, Carson Beck all the way down in the end of the 11th round to team 12. Then we got Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, running back for Arizona, team 12 that starts the last round. Then you got Travion Henderson. There's always going to be a guy that drops down and you're like, how in the world does this guy go so late in the draft and name just gets skipped? Travion Henderson going to team 11 there. Most likely in your draft, that name is not going to be there, but you never know who's going to be the guy that's going to fall.
Yeah, there's just only so many touches to go around in that offense. That offense can be number 1 in the country, and he's not going to crack the top 12 or 15 or potentially 20 running backs just because of Quinshaw Judkins and Will Howard stealing a lot of the touches.
Then you got Matt Sykes, wide receiver, to team 10, and then Max Johnson, the quarterback, going to the final pick, team 9. BMAC, how does that impact you on your final pick of this abbreviated mock draft?
Really not at all. I'm looking at quarterback, and I know that's the weakest position for me, and that's not good in a 2 quarterback league. I feel good with Castellanos and KJ Jefferson. Um, but I'm looking obviously to shore that up in case, obviously there's an injury or something like that. So don't want to wait too long. A few guys that I'm looking at here, Vattiato is still out there, Middle Tennessee, and a Derek Mason offense. So we'll see. Aiden Childs would be an exciting pick here. And really in a mock draft, you kind of want to have an exciting pick. I also like Drew Aller, and I think he can pick it up a ton this year. A lot of NFL scouts are kind of predicting that his draft stock has not been affected based on how he's played so far, that he's still got it there. And then you're looking at Garrett Nussmeier as well, or I am. I'm going to go with Drew Aller here from Penn State, and Doug,
that Doug, if Doug is out there watching, Doug is going to be like, BMAC, that's my favorite pick of the draft, because he's big on Drew Aller.
Yeah, I like Drew Aller a lot, but I think there is some good value, him versus Nussmeier. I think Aller has the potential to get a little bit more on the ground, whereas Nussmeier can probably get a bit more through the air and has better weapons than Aller at receiver. Team 7 goes Elijah Surratt, wide receiver, and then Team 6 finishes up with another wide receiver, Carnell Tate. All right, Matt, here, let's set it up for your final pick. You've got 2 quarterbacks, McLeod and Ewers. At running back, you've got Hampton, Martinez, Malik Sherrod, Anthony Hankerson, and then wide receiver, starting from the top, Egbuka, Kevin Concepcion, Will Shepard, Jalen Moss, tight end, Brant Keithy. Who you got?
All right, so we're in the final round. If you're going to pick a my guy, this is the time to do it. I will say with this one, this is more than a my guy. Grayson McCall has been somebody that's been on my team, on my radar, guy I've really followed since, he was a freshman. Great quarterback. He was in a terrible offense last year, but it was injured. A lot of talk around the NC State offense, but somebody's got to be able to get him the ball. And if they're going to have the kind of numbers that people are projecting, Grayson McCall is going to be the guy to get him. I think I need to go to the CFB powers that be, CFB Dynasty powers that be, and I need to raise the flag and be like, I think you've got Grayson McCall ranked far too low. He is currently ranked 52 in the overall rankings. So I think that Grayson McCall is going to be a big value pick there, and the final pick for my squad. All right, so we've got quarterbacks, running backs, quarterbacks going in this last 12 on this final round. BMAC, what do you think about my pick of Grayson McCall there? And then once you give us that, then we're going to see who Mr. Irrelevant is in this draft with that final pick 144 of the longest live recorded mock draft in the history of you and me.
Yeah, it's been a long show. Anyways, I like the McCall pick. Like, this offense can be great. There's more talent at NC State, like we said a couple shows ago, like since the Torrey Holt years, and love that pick. Team 4 goes Vattiato. Jamal Haynes goes running back from Georgia Tech. Aiden Childs goes to Team 2. And then we're going to go, Team 1 is going to go wide receiver here. Corey Rucker, who is back at Arkansas State. He's played 4 years of football. He, transferred out of Arkansas State and went elsewhere, and, didn't quite get things rolling along at the higher level. But back in 2021, 59 catches, 816 yards, 9 touchdowns. He should be a feature there at this offense, the leading receiver. Really great potential to kind of break out for Corey Rucker this year and kind of go from where he's been irrelevant the last couple of years.
All right, so that is Mr. Irrelevant. So that is the first pre-draft mock draft for CFB Dynasty. There you've got 12 teams of 12 players each. We want you guys to let us know, whether it's in the comments on YouTube, whether it's on the Discord, which team you think got the best team overall. We also want to know, who do you think drafted better, me or BMAC, for our own personal teams. We want to know who you think the best pick was as far as somebody who slid in the draft and you're able to get value. We want to know who you think was the worst pick from a reach perspective. Anything you want to comment about this mock draft, we want you guys to take a look and let us know your thoughts. That being said, we keep talking about the Discord, and we keep telling you guys that if you comment on the Discord, that's one of our favorite things, is being able to interact with you guys on Discord. We want to give a couple shout outs. Avant Gardner, thanks for the great pod yesterday, guys. That was our pod from last week. Brett P said he enjoyed the last pod. And then a little passive aggressive, but in a fun way, Brett P last night said hoping to get another pod this weekend. So he wanted to make sure to encourage us to get this pod going. But then we did have a really good question from 1J24, a longtime follower. So BMAC, I want your thoughts on this. He says, good Friday morning. Well, took the time to watch your latest YouTube beginner stuff. I know most of you guys are fantasy nerds. The ranking stuff seems great. Rankings, guys, position-wise, time-consuming for you, I'm sure. You guys have Tet McMillan with 277.2 projected fantasy points. For me, if he's playing maybe 11 games, that's almost 25 fantasy points per week, give or take. Why would I draft him first if I had an opportunity to draft Ollie Gordon, who most would say is going to get about 20 fantasy points at the same as Tet? Let's see. Average of what these guys would possibly project would be helpful when you're hitting your drafts. I'll shoot you a DM as well. I guess we're saying, why would you want to draft Tet McMillan over Ollie Gordon, or would you want to draft Tet McMillan over Ollie Gordon?
That's really close. I mean, they are projected within 3 points of each other. Tet McMillan being the number 1 projected receiver, Ollie Gordon being the number 2 projected running back. So these are both guys that are highly likely to be taken in the top 5 or 6. So really, if you have that second pick or maybe the third pick, you'll be making that choice. I don't know why necessarily, but I'll always go running back. I feel like wide receiver is a little bit deeper in terms of being able to, and you see this in the mock draft. The mock draft's a great way to kind of see that and play it out. So like you're getting a Jalen Moss, who could be an every week starter for you in round 11. But then at running back, you've got some others. So McReynolds, you've got Jalen John, you've got Harrison Whaley, Jarquez Hunter, Jaheim White. I like going running back early, but that's really just a personal preference. I just slightly favor running backs for one reason or another. How about you, Matt?
Well, I think if you are in a draft and it's your first pick and you've got the choice of either one of those guys, you can't really go wrong. However, I completely agree with you, BMAC. If you look at the team that I assembled in our mock draft, I think you have to go with guaranteed touches on the ball. You know that normally a running back, if you're the RB1, if you are a heavy touch guy like Ollie Gordon is, that guarantees that he's going to get X amount of times in a game to do something with the ball. Wide receiver, you're counting on the quarterback to get them the ball for touches, unless there's somebody that's getting a lot of end arounds and a lot of jet sweeps and things like that. But yeah, so I would always go Ollie Gordon in that situation because of the fact you're going to get guaranteed touches out of that position if it's going to be your first pick.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, so that is the show for this week. You guys are not going to see a lot of what was recorded because there's a lot of stuff that's going to get cut out so we can make this thing go faster. It's going to be interesting to see how long this show actually is compared to how long it actually took to record. But we really love college fantasy football, and we took this time so that way you guys have information to go on when you are assembling your draft for your college fantasy team. And we are super happy that you have joined us. BMAC, tell everybody what we're going to be doing next week on the CFB Dynasty podcast.
Subject to change, but I think we're slated to go over sleepers next week. So we'll all pick a few and talk through our favorite sleepers. Obviously, Grayson McCall is a candidate for you, and that's great. But we'll have more rankings updates and things like that coming along. But obviously had the massive update last week. So sleepers likely.
With that being said, on behalf of Brian McElfresh, I am Matt Knowles. We thank you guys for coming out to another broadcast of the CFB Dynasty podcast, where we help you take your college fantasy football experience to the next level.
Thank you for listening to the CFB Dynasty podcast. Help us out by subscribing on YouTube and reviewing us on your podcast network.